What kind of other benefits are you seeing from the rise of women's sport?
Well, I think it's been good for women and men, actually, because ultimately it improves participation in the economy. People are fitter, healthier, less diabetes and, less money you have to spend on healthcare. And there's a bit more community cohesion. So I think ultimately, I don't think it really matters what it is. In Australia we're funny because we have 4 football codes. We have soccer, we have Aussie rules, we have rugby league and rugby union. And I think it's a good thing because it means that boys and girls have a choice of all 4 instead of playing their PlayStations or, whatever they're doing on the computers. So I think in some ways having a choice, people say it's the Code Wars. I think it was not a war. Whether you play soccer or Aussie rules is not a war. Yeah. It's just another choice.
Healthy competition.
Healthy competition, yes, very healthy. Yes.
And so since the bid for the FIFA World Cup with the Matildas and the craze that we saw around them, to this day, there's a huge buzz. Mary Fowler just got her own Barbie doll. I mean, this is like fandom to a new level.
There's an aspiration having your own Barbie doll. Well, why not?
You more than made it, right? I don't know.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
But I mean, that among other things, there's huge impacts that we're seeing, and the flow-on effects continue to be seen on the ground in different communities. What have you seen? Like, are we seeing young girls, boys starting to participate a bit more in sport, or?
Well, I've heard that there's the Legacy 23 from the World Cup was expecting a big increase, so they were pushing for more infrastructure for girls and for boys as well. So I think they anticipate that. I think straight after you do, but again, you need to have the infrastructure and all the things in place. I mean, I think when Cathy Freeman won the gold medal, I don't think every Australian became a runner the next day, but certainly that there was a buzz around it. So I think, I think it helps. But it's not everything. It's sort of what economists say. It's necessary, but not sufficient. You need the other infrastructure in place.
So when you say infrastructure, what are we talking about?
Change rooms, facilities, training, at the community level, not just the elite level. And that's been a issue, I think, traditionally in community and amateur sport, particularly for women. But if now they're making a lot of money playing English Premier League and they're, celebrities, people take the sport more seriously because they take the high profile of the national team more seriously.
Yeah, and women athletes are definitely, that's a few of the comments we've had so far in the interviews I've done. People are saying, we are being taken more seriously, even with commentating. The analysis of games is becoming a little bit more serious, and the high expectations are growing for these athletes as well.
That's a really good point. I think, and in fact, a lot of women's sports people have said to me when people commentate, particularly guys, they don't want them to say that every game's a good game because they want high standards. And I think men commentators are really scared to say, oh, gee, that was a pretty lousy game. The Matildas weren't very good against China because they'll get a social media backlash or whatever. So some of the women's athletes said, no, call it as a professional commentator. So we play a bad game, say so. We've done the wrong thing, say so. If the sport's got some problems, say so. And I think that's part of the progress, I think, of the sports themselves. I mean, women athletes have always been famous in Australia. Dawn Fraser and Betty Cuthbert, particularly at the individual level. But I think now it's sort of gone to different sports that we associate more with guys. I think we've always had famous basketball, netballers, famous swimmers, and so on. But now you're getting the sports that are traditionally male also having a female team. It's interesting with netball because netball is by women, for women, commentated by women, played by women. They don't have a men's... they won't go in the Olympics because they don't want to have a men's team.
Oh, really?
If you're in the Olympics, you've got to have a male and female team. That's the rule of the Olympics. And Matt Carroll was telling me, the netballers have always said, nah, we're a domain of women. We don't want a bunch of blokes playing netball at the Olympics. Interesting, isn't it? Really,
that's funny. I never knew that.
Yeah, that's the rule of the Olympics. You got to if any Olympic sport, you got to have a men and a women's. That's the rule.
So Netball Australia doesn't want to.
They don't want to be the Olympics.
Let the boys in.
They don't want to let the boys in. So they want netball to themselves. I can see that traditionally netball has dominated women's sport, for years. Now they've got a bit of competition with soccer, and rugby and AFLW. They're probably thinking, we've really got to protect our code,
Yeah. That's super interesting. Now, are there any other impacts from the Matildas buzz that maybe people don't know or are a little less known?
Well, I think probably internationally it probably helps. I mean, Mary Fowler's got PNG ancestry. You know, when I was at Austrade and we used a number of, famous sports people as ambassadors, Rod McQueen and his Wallabies, former Wallabies teams as ambassadors, I've always thought that is a good way when you're trading with other countries, particularly if they play rugby or soccer or cricket. And last year I was in Delhi for the cricket collaboration and Commonwealth Conference that UTS put on with Matt Hayden and Lisa Stelica. They were sort of our ambassadors. And I think we could probably use Mary Fowler perhaps with relationships with PNG and a number of the Matildas, I think. Sam Kerr's of Indian origin, so she could be, like our sports ambassador for India. So I think there are some other knock-on effects I think we could use in diplomacy that perhaps we haven't explored yet.
Yeah, right. Didn't even think of that.
There you go. There's an idea for you.